ça bouge plus in Douala.
Ça bouge aussi à Abidjan.
And see, Abidjan in terms of movement, like it's more dynamic. Abidjan is here, more dynamic. A lot of the things, like for example, digital marketing and the things that I do, people in Abidjan are more aware of it. There are conferences about that. People talk about it all the time. In Cameroon, a little less. And so there's pros and cons to that. There's more opportunities in Cameroon because there's a greater need, I would say, for education and all of that. In Abidjan,
CEAV English Talk, a talk show in English on a variety of problem-solving ideas that are creative, educational, altruistic, and vital. Episode 8. Enjoy! Hello, hello!
hey!
Welcome back!
Comment ça va?
Bonsoir, ça va bien?
Thank you.
So, thank you once again. Our first and previous conversation, it was awesome talking to you. We had fun, and I hope those who watched the video had fun as well.
Yeah, I love it so much. It was really great.
So thank you once again for agreeing to do part 2, because we were in the middle of something interesting and then we couldn't move on. But anyway, that was a transition to move to part 2. And part 2 is about what is it that you are going to do when you come to Africa. So a little background about this part 2. In the previous conversation, around 46 minutes, you mentioned something very striking. You said, of course, we want to come to Africa because we want to have comfort, of human comfort, stuff like that. But you mentioned we want to build something in Africa. And I was like, wow. And I did a lot of research. I went through some of your videos, and your last video, if I'm not mistaken, on your YouTube channel, by the way, I'm putting the link of the video on this video. So please go to Dr. Linda's YouTube channel. She's got plenty of useful, valuable content for you guys preparing like she is preparing to come to Africa. So your last video was, are we prepared for this? 10 signs it's time to move. So I took my time to watch it. I went through the whole video because that's the point. People don't like watching the whole video and they make comments. So please watch the full video. Watch it, take your time. It's not a waste of time. It's valuable content for your sake. Yeah. So there were 10 signs. So if you want to know all of them, I'm not going to list them here. Please go watch the video. But one sign really struck me, and it's related to what I previously mentioned. You said sign number 5, if you have a desire to build something. So we are going to talk about what you want to build when coming in Africa.
Sure. I love these questions because one of the things that I really love to talk about is travel and business. Those are some of my 2 passions. And so my business, we mentioned that a little bit last time. And when I started my travel business, I started as a blog, but I wasn't monetizing or anything. That was like 10 years ago. And what I did is that about 7-8 years ago, I jumped into the coaching industry, right? And what I really wanted to do was to help other moms like me because a lot of moms had issues traveling with their kids and they didn't know how to do it. And for me, it came easily to me. And a lot of times when you think about what kind of business you can start with the things that you like. It doesn't have to be the things that make you money necessarily, but the things that you have a passion for, the things that come easy to you, right? And so I started with that, just giving tips online for people who travel with kids. If you look at my YouTube channel and videos from 10 years ago, those were the videos that I was making, traveling with my kids and tips for packing with kids and stuff like that. And then I transitioned into something. It's very interesting because you have to listen to what the market tells you. And people were more interested in how I was putting out content online than what I was necessarily saying. So it was more about the strategy behind it than the content itself. So I was like, wait a minute. I was sharing with people like my calendar, my content calendar. I'm a planning nerd. I love to plan. I have 30,000 calendars on my desk. And I was just showing it online, like, hey, this is the behind the scenes. And people were like, we want this. How do you do that? Like, how can you stay consistent online with social media without burning out, and you have kids and all of that? And I was like, sure, this is what I do in my spare time. Okay, I can teach you that. And that's how I build my business, my marketing business, is teaching people how to post content online, how to be consistent on social media, whatever platform. And as a busy person, because I started that when I had 2 toddlers at home. And it was even easier for me when I had my twins, because when I was pregnant, I was like, okay, I need to get organized. How do I get organized? How do I plan 3 months of content in advance? That way I'm not like every day on my phone like this, because who has time for that, right? So that's how I built my business, based on what people wanted from me. And I just gave it to them. They needed something, and I gave it to them.
Wow, I see. Listening to the market. And I heard someone saying that if you want to do what you like, that's a hobby. If you want to do what people like, that's a business.
Yeah, it's a good illustration, and you have to find the middle, because they can join, right? Because if you do something that you hate but other people like, you're not going to enjoy the process, right? And there are things like that I might not enjoy, but other people might want from me, and I'm like, I'm not really willing to to teach you that just because you want that from me, right? Because I don't enjoy it. And so when I say you have to have a desire to build in Africa, you have to me, what it means is that you have to be curious. You have to be willing to learn about the market, what the market needs. And that's one of the things that I did when I visited, is just to be observant of what's there, what was there surprisingly, what wasn't there, and trying to listen to the market. What do people say that they want, that they need? And based on, maybe there are things that we have here in America, for example, they're not there, but it's not just about taking it and putting it there, but it's adapting it to the needs of the market if it's needed. And so I think that having that mentality of service and that mentality of producing something of value, not just bringing things just to bring things, but something that is valuable. And I think that that's the mindset you have to have to go to the continent, most parts of the continent, because there are needs, right? And so you have to listen to those needs. When you go to Europe, the needs are already covered. And so it's very similar to the lifestyle in the US. So you don't necessarily have to go in there with the idea of, oh, I'm going to create something, because a lot of things are already created, right? And that's why I say that's the mentality we're going with. It's okay, how can we serve, in which way can we contribute to the local economy?
I see. But you've been in Africa previously. I mean, in sub-Saharan Africa, because we don't want people to be to frustrate people. Okay, I think Africa. People say Africa is not a country. There are 54 countries. Africa is a continent.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you know what? When I put the title
Yeah.
of the video of our first conversation, somebody commented in one WhatsApp group that we all belong in, and he said, "Why you saying Africa? Africa is not a country. Why not specifying the country that you would like to move to?" And we were like, talking about so it's important to, yes, of course, it's important to specify countries, but to say moving to Africa is not despising, having a despising mind, thinking that Africa is just a country. No, I mean, that's the beauty of it. Africa is like a country, really, because we have the same cultural background.
And I'll be the first person who say I hate it when people say I'm going to Africa. I hate it. I'll be the first person to tell you that, because there's different context. Usually, a lot of Africans, we say Africa, but when we say Africa, we understand the nuances, and we say it in the context of unity of us all as Africans. Not that we're all the same, but that we, in our differences, we are a powerful continent. We are one. In a different context, when people here in the US say Africa, a lot of times it's because it's one picture of what Africa is for them. And a lot of times for many Americans, Africa is poverty, is war, and that's why I have a problem when people say Africa, because it's a simplification, a caricature or stereotype of what Africa is. And a lot of times Africans, we say Africa too. We do say it, but
with a good intention.
Representation of all of us together. Yes. And sure, I can say, oh, I'm going to build a business in Cote d'Ivoire. Sure, but I'm not sure I'm going to Cote d'Ivoire. And this business could be built in Cameroon too. And it could be built in Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, Ghana, South Africa, so it's just to simplify things. But it's important to note and to just tell everybody that I'm not using the continent as a whole, because having grown up in North Africa, it's very different from sub-Saharan Africa. But at the same time, sometimes I just say Africa to simplify it, but I understand the nuances of the 54 countries, the cultural differences, the language, and all of that. The economies are very different. But most of the time when Africans say it, it's as a uniting front. That's how I think it is.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, it's a good point, and it's important to point that out to avoid any frustration and misunderstanding.
Don't get frustrated, people. Don't get frustrated.
Yeah, please don't get frustrated. We are all one family, okay? So now talking about business, and what is interesting is that you have a video where you mentioned 5 simple online businesses you can start today to help you move abroad. The thing is, if you are to move from the US to Africa, you need to sustain your living. So to have a job, to make a living, to have something
Absolutely.
you do as a business. And let's talk about this. Many people moving from the US to Africa. So the question is about where to work, where to get a job, how to make a living. And this should be taken care of before moving. So what's your plan regarding that very sensitive part of money making to sustain your life, even though you have your savings,
absolutely. And
but
I
in the long run, yes.
The just like in everyday life, I would say don't count on your savings. Just like whether you move or not, don't count on your savings. Savings are there to be saved. They're not there to be spent. Okay. So I would say the easiest way, or the way that most people would think, is get a job. Okay. This is not the way I would think, because just like anywhere you are in the world, you can be let go. And if you have a job in the US, most states, they don't have to give you a reason to let you go. They can let you go today. Pack your bags, you're out. They don't have to give you any reason. They don't have to give you 2 week, none of that. They can let you go today. So the worst thing that could happen is that you're working with, let's say, your company here, you're working remote, and you're like, oh, I'm remote, I can work from anywhere. Let me move to Abidjan. All right, let's take the whole family, we move to Abidjan. And tomorrow they let you go. What you gonna do? Right? You love your life in Abidjan, you got your kids in school and everything. And in the middle of all of that, you just have to go back. Again, there's nothing wrong with going back, but at the same time, it's like everything, your move was dependent on that job. And at the end of the day, as much as we can say that jobs is, it's income stability, it is, but there's no job security. When you have a job, you have income guarantee. You sign a contract, they will give you that money at the end of every month. But they didn't guarantee they will keep you in that job. So there's still that, you just never know. Okay, so just to be safe, there are different ways you can move abroad. You can have a remote job from the US. Again, like I said, you can find a job like at a multinational company and work from any other destination that you want. If you want to do that, those jobs are harder to find, I would say. Or you can get a transfer. Like if you work at Shell in Houston, you can get a position at Shell in Lagos. There are different ways to do that with a job. But again, it's not guaranteed that you're going to be there for the length of, number of years that you want to be there. You could. It's not guaranteed. So that's why I personally would always say a safer way to do it is to have your own business. That when you decide, not when somebody else has decided, but when you decide it's time to go, you can say, you know what, let's go. But at least your move abroad or your time abroad is more dependent on you than somebody else.
I see. But how to make this happen? Talking about your own experience, you've been working for a company for almost a decade, right? and then you resigned,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now you're
Yeah.
working for yourself. You are your own boss. So
Mhm.
tell us about this
Mhm.
transition. How long did you work at your previous company, and why did
Yeah,
you
I'm not gonna lie.
resign?
It's very hard. Yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it and say, oh, it's the best. You're your own boss, your boss lady, or be all the cliche. I'm not gonna say that because it's very hard. And that's why I said the easiest thing is just to go with a job. It's the easiest thing, but at the same time, it also has its risks. So to transition, don't do what I did. Because I transitioned, I was just tired of my job. I was really tired, and I was like, I have to go. I have to go. So I went more with my emotions than with my brain, but at the same time, I had faith that it would work out. So it did work out. But at the same time, trying to be as logical and objective as possible if you can. And so ideally, what you want to do is to be able to make money from your business before you leave your job. Ideally, that's what you want, right? I didn't do that. I just left. So I had to hustle, hustle, hustle to make money with my business. Like, it was crunch time. So ideally, make money from your business, and then it's going to be an easy transition. That way, it doesn't put pressure on yourself or your spouse or anything like that. So that's while you are at your job, and that's something that I did too, is that use your job as an investment, a financial investment in your business, because you're going to need some money. Depending on the business that you start, you might need some money. So you have money coming in every single month. It's guaranteed through your job. So use part of it to invest into your side hustle and build and build and build. After work, you work on your business. On the weekend, you work on your business. You're gonna have to make sacrifices, but all good things need sacrifice. So that's how I would say is the best way, I guess, to transition from your 9 to 5 to full-time business.
I see. But with the living standard in the US, and with all the expenses, all the things that you have to put money in to sustain your life in the US, is, how is it possible to do the side hustle
Mhm.
and pour money in? Is it even possible to put money aside for your side hustle? Is it realistic?
Well, you got to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice. It's not the norm. Not everybody does it, right? Not everybody has a business, but it's a sacrifice that you have to make on your time. I mean, I remember I growing up, I've always loved watching TV. Always, I love watching TV. But for the first, I would say 2, 3 years of my business, I didn't watch any TV, maybe 1 hour a week. And that's the sacrifice I was willing to make. Everybody was talking about, oh, see what happened on the latest episode of Scandal, and that was the season when Scandal came out. Like, everybody was watching Scandal and all that, and I was like, I'm not watching. I need to work on this business. Okay, so it's time, it's money, but sometimes you're gonna have to put more time. Sometimes you're gonna have to put more money. If you don't have a lot of money, then you're gonna have to put more time. It's one or the other. Okay, so I had to put more time. So I had to have that discussion with my husband. Like, okay, when I come back from work, okay, I'm not gonna go, like, for example, straight into sitting on the couch with him and watching TV, or I'm gonna spend a little more time upstairs in the guest room and work on the business. That's something you have to do. You have to know why you're doing it. It's not just, oh, it's gonna come naturally. And every business owner makes sacrifices. I mean, right? All the time. What you spend time on YouTube making videos when you could be spending time with your kids, right? But it's a sacrifice you make.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. Sacrifice, but at least it's for
Yeah,
a certain period of time, and after that, you can enjoy your life later on. But you need to be making the
exactly,
sacrifice
exactly,
at the
exactly.
moment.
Yep, it's necessary.
Hmm. Now, with that clear, that's quite clear. You are preparing to move to Africa to build something. What have you envisioned? What is it that you want to build in Africa? So building is a broad
Mhm,
idea.
mhm.
So let's break it down. What can we understand about building
Yes,
something
yes,
something
and
in
and
Africa?
yes. One thing that I've so and this applies because my husband is from Cameroon, and he grew up in Cameroon, so he knows the market and the needs in Cameroon, right, more than Cote d'Ivoire. Speaking specifically for Cameroon, for example, when it comes to internet access, okay, most people don't have internet at home. Okay, so having what we call in French cyber cafe, right? Something like a cyber cafe where you don't not only you provide internet access, but you also provide the training. like classes, training for Microsoft Excel, all the basics, right? But also how to polish your resume, how to be more competitive with the international workers, how to get jobs, remote jobs, all these training that comes with having the facilities. And now you can just play on the internet. No, it's like, okay, how can you be focused and get the right training? That way you're competitive with the international market. So that's one thing based on the realities of Cameroonian market. Okay, one thing that based on the discussions that I've had with some of the students in Abidjan, how to be able to study abroad. Basically, how to come and study in the US. This is something that I did, and not a lot of people know how to do it. Even Americans, not a lot of them don't know the non-debt, like without going to university without any kind of debt. Okay, so that's why I wrote the book, and that's why I tell people even here how to do that, right? How to get their kids to go to university. So that is a need that's there. And that is through weekly training, workshops. Again, it doesn't have to be a school per se, right? And that's something that you can do from anywhere in the world. It's something that can start right now, having training here and do like Zoom meetings every week with parents, with high school students to cover a need, okay? So that's one thing that to me is very, very, very important because I want to be able to tell others about how I did it. And I think that anybody who needs to further their studies, a lot of times it's the money. It's the money to be able to move abroad, to study in Europe or to study in the US. And I don't necessarily know how to go to Europe to study because there's not something that I did, but I can tell you how to do it to come to the US. So
definitely.
That's something that I want to share, and I want to tell other people how to do it, right? Based on what I do in my business with content marketing, how can you be a community manager for an American coach, for example, so you can compete with somebody in the Philippines and make enough money so that you can quit your 9 to 5? All these things that basically based on my own experience and being able to share that knowledge. So on the last video, I shared, different ways, full-time in, 3 of them. So YouTube, it's not bringing me money yet, but it will. So YouTube, coaching, and consulting. And again, you have to know what you're good at. You have to know what you like, and you have to know what people need. Okay. The whole college education, people need it. Okay. I'm good at it based on my own experience. Do I like it? I'm not passionate about it, but I like it enough to share the knowledge with other people. Content marketing. This is what I've done. I did marketing at school. This is what my business is built on. I can teach it. I can share it. There's a need for it. In my consulting, I went to school for it. I'm a tourist consultant. So I help other government entities to actually attract visitors to their destination. So I'm actually working with the Embassy of Cote d'Ivoire here in the US to help them bring American tourists to Cote d'Ivoire. And so look at what you're good at, what you already know, and use that for your business.
I see. Wow. So it's about, so you're working in the education industry. So the industry you'll be involved in is education, basically everything related to education, career development, business.
Under the umbrella of education. Yeah. We can put it under the umbrella. Yes.
And why this is very relevant, because I think that what is holding many young Africans back, what is holding them back, is a lack of proper education or relevant education to compete in this globalized world.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. I mean, if I said it in the previous interview that we had, based on my experience as a student and as American schools at the graduate level are extremely competitive. Why? Because they have a lot of funds for research. Undergraduate level, to be honest, undergraduate level in the US is not the best system. American high schools, they're not the best system. What we do in the French schools in high school, that's what they do in undergraduate school. So it's okay if you come and study in the US for grad school. Actually, you're even a better student, because most immigrants who come to grad school to the US are actually better than Americans because of the knowledge we've got in undergraduate school, because undergraduate schools outside of the US are actually better. But so you have to know what kind of major you have to be in, okay? STEMs, for example. A lot of Americans are not into math. America doesn't rank very well into math and science, okay, from China, come to the US to study those fields, and then they try to retain them and to stay in the US and to work in Silicon Valley, to work in all the innovation fields. And those are not Americans per se. A lot of them are Indians, Chinese, all of these people from abroad. And so this is where you have to be like, okay, how can I position myself to be able to go to school, to get a good education, get some experience, and then bring that knowledge back. Okay, so that way my own community, my own country, my own city can also move forward. So it's not just about, getting the knowledge and bringing it back as well, bringing it home. So you have to know which fields are competitive. I mean, if you're not interested in AI right now, artificial intelligence, you're already behind. You have to be interested in it. You have to. So those are the things you have to pay attention to, like the right fields, the right schools, the right professions, the right careers you have to be in. That way you can be competitive.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Now talking about Africans' need, because you want to build something in Africa. Education is one sector, one great part of your involvement. What else?
Yeah.
What else do you think you might be involved? Maybe in the midterm or long term.
That's a great question. Like I said, you have to go with what you know, and you have to be on the ground to have a better understanding of the market. So I cannot sit here and say, oh, I'm going to go into the transformation of, I don't know, iron transformation, whatever it is. I cannot tell you that because I don't know the field. I don't know. That would just be fantasy land. Based on what I know, education is what it is. And based on what I know what to do, there is a need of more formal education in terms of hospitality and tourism. There's I think, a university in San Pedro who does it, but the government said there's a need for more. So I'm like, hey, I'm in that industry. That's where I can fit. Okay, whether it's to teach at university or to do workshops or offer internships, whatever it is, but at least there's a clear need and I match that need as a solution, okay, as part of the solution. But I cannot say in a field that I've never been in myself here in the West and say, oh, I'm going to go and do that over there. Like, oh, I'm going to do transportation or, taxi or Yango. I have no idea about this market. Sure, it could work, but
what people are sharing, that's what people are talking about. Like, okay, when you go to Africa, this is a kind of business this is good business. You can do it. It will work for you. There's a lot of money to make. How do you resist to that temptation? Investment temptation.
You said it.
Shiny
it's because
object
there's a lot
syndromes.
of money to make. It's absolutely that. You can make a lot of money in a lot of industries. And the thing is that I read that quote somewhere. If you do what you love, you can make a lot of money in what you love. If you're a painter, you can make a lot of money as a painter. You don't have to go and do Yangos just because people are making money there. And maybe you're very bad delegator. You're a very bad boss. You don't talk. You're an introvert and you don't know how to tell people like directly, give me my money. Or, if you're not a good people's person and you don't know how to manage staff and why would you go into doing Yango just because there's money? You're not going to succeed in it just because people make money in it, right? So you have to know what you're good at and what you like. And you have to know, that's not to say that I'm not going to get into it, but I don't know the market enough. I'm not there to know the realities of it. I can just say, okay, I'm going to go into taxis because it's a little shallow, I think. But one thing that I've noticed, and this is something that I don't hear a lot of people say, because I hear a lot of people say, okay, get into the Yango business. Based on my experience, what I've witnessed in Abidjan, we need investments in public transportation. There's not enough roads to sustain all these Yangos going out and being pumped out every day. The traffic you're seeing today, and then building certain roads, and people are pumping more Yangos in on the streets, and it defeats the purpose. That's just me. Not only it's not good for the environment, but it's not good for just the stress and all of that. I believe that people need to be more innovative and invest in some kind of car share system. You park your car somewhere and then you take 5 people with you. You go all of you are going to Plateau. You park your car in Cote in certain area, open parking or whatever. One person drives and you take 5 people with you to Plateau and all of you get there. You don't need to have 5 cars going to a plateau, right? So other ideas like this, public transportation, like I mean, I think that I don't know when it's going to come out, but the metro is something that
yes,
Abidjan is working on. This is great. These are innovative ideas that solve the problem. But building more roads and pumping more cars doesn't solve the problem. It neutralizes it. It neutralizes the problem. It's like, oh, we're building more roads. Oh, but let's put more cars on the streets. Why? Right? So I wouldn't, personally, I don't think I would go into a taxi business. It could make me a lot of money, but I have some issues with the whole business. So that's just me.
Yeah, and it all comes down to the purpose and the way you feel things. You don't do for the sake of doing it, because you have to be real. It has to be you. You have to feel it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You have to like it. Does it make you feel
Awkward.
good to know that you're pumping 100 cars out on the streets in a polluted city that cannot really sustain that? I personally, I mean, I'm not judging anybody. I'm saying me, it doesn't sit well with my conscience. That's just me.
Yes, but you've been in sub-Saharan Africa. Which country did you visit first?
I've only been to Cote d'Ivoire.
And when was
in Sub-Saharan Africa. That's why I'm talking based on what I know. In 2013 for my best friend's wedding, and in 2022. So 10 years apart. Yes.
And how long did you stay each time?
I stayed 10 days each time. 10 days. When I talk about Cameroon, it's based on my husband's experience, because he's.
Wow. And how can you describe your experience back then?
So the first time I came in as a tourist, I was like, I'm here, I'm the maid of honor. I'm like, let's have fun, let's do this. And I'm just like discovering, right? It was really fun. It was different. It was good. I didn't come in as seeing myself living there. That's not why I went in there to do. I went there to support my friend, do anything she needed, hanging out and all that. Last year when I went there to observe. I didn't go there to be a tourist and to chill. I didn't go to Astini and all of that, because you have to. But I went there. Can I see myself and my family live here? So I observe everything: traffic, food, prices, going to the supermarket, comparing prices. I didn't get to visit like houses or things like that, but we drove around and she was like, oh, okay, this friend lives here. The prices are around here in this area and this area. Went to the one of the international schools, talked to the staff, visited the school, look at how things are. What else? I didn't get to go to the hospital. I wanted to go, but there was too much traffic and we had to turn around. But I experienced traffic, right? I went to the plateau, looking at the library, La Librairie de France, is it right? Looking at the type of books that they have. Will I have to bring English language books for my kids? And the answer is yes, I will have to, because they didn't have a big section of books in English available for small kids. Observing, seeing if I could see myself living there, me and my family, not just me.
I see. What about Cameroon then?
Yes, so Cameroon, we're going this December, God willing. We were supposed to go last year, but with the whole visa, we had a whole visa fiasco, so we weren't able to go last summer. And so the plan is to go this summer, and then after that trip to decide officially if we're going with Cameroon or if we're going to Cote d'Ivoire. Cameroon is an easy yes. My in-laws are in there. My husband grew up there. There's a network. It might be an easier place to go, and the cost of living, it will probably cut a cost of living by 3. Abidjan, the cost of living will be slightly lower, not a lot, but in Cameroon, it will be a lot cheaper. So
when you said Cameroon, which city are you talking about? In Cameroon?
Yaoundé.
Okay.
Yes, it would be in Yaoundé. I don't know if he would stay in Douala, because my husband is familiar with Yaoundé. That's where he grew up. So that's where his dad is, and that's where some family is in Yaoundé, some family in Douala. But more than likely would start in Yaoundé just because it's the familiarity. But in Douala would be a possibility based on the type of business that my husband would like to do. It's a little more, ça bouge plus in Douala.
Ça bouge aussi à Abidjan.
And see, Abidjan in terms of movement, like it's more dynamic. Abidjan is here, more dynamic. A lot of of the things, like for example, digital marketing and the things that I do, people in Abidjan are more aware of it. There are conferences about that. People talk about it all the time. In Cameroon, a little less. And so there's pros and cons to that. There's more opportunities in Cameroon because there's a greater need, I would say, for education and all of that. In Abidjan, it's already established, so maybe it's a little easier market to penetrate. There's a pros and cons, right? But in cost of living, Abidjan up here, Yaoundé down here. So we shall see.
Wow, I see. That's quite interesting. Yeah. So, we are almost at the end of our. Wow, time is moving so fast, so fast. Almost at the end of the part two of our fun conversation, where we are exploring all the potential of your coming to Africa, and sub-Saharan Africa, Cote d'Ivoire or Cameroon. We'll see.
Yes.
So there is Team Cote d'Ivoire, yay! And there is Team Cameroon.
It's funny because it's like Cote d'Ivoire and Cameroon are always fighting for everything, right? In football, we always then
Didier Drogba, Samuel Eto'o.
This move abroad too is like they're
and
it's so funny.
I have a funny story. There is this new bridge, Plateau Cocody. The new that is just very beautiful. And Ivorians, we like fancy stuff. So, internet is going away because people are going there, TikToking, WhatsApping. You name it. Taking selfies, like, yeah, I've been there. Yeah. And people are posting online. So, internet is on fire because of that new bridge. So, one guy from Cameroon, he dared to say this statement. He said, I saw it on my one post online. He said, "Oh, you guys are Ivorian. It's as though you've never seen a bridge before. What's wrong with you?" So you see the.
He created a war.
Yeah, he wanted to create something that, so let's calm down. So I even made a video about it, like a funny video on one of my YouTube channels. I said, yes, where I talked about it. I was like, I said, what's wrong with enjoying our new bridge? We've never seen that bridge before. You say, as though you've never seen a bridge before, but we've never seen that bridge. This is a brand new one. So between Cameroon and Cote d'Ivoire, we are like, fighting about many things, football, culture, food, stuff like that. But anyway, there are many people from Cameroon living in Cote d'Ivoire. You know how Ivorians are. We love people.
Oh yes, and
a lot of Cameroonians are.
And funny story too. Childhood friends of my husband. He met them in Cote d'Ivoire here last year when we came, and he was like, "Whoa, you live here?" And they're like, "Yeah, this is it. This is where you have to be." So I'm like, I didn't have to tell him anything. I just let other Cameroonians in Cote d'Ivoire tell him. I was like,
yeah.
Other people are telling him.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
There is a strong bond between both countries. I don't know why, but maybe something historical happened.
Yes.
But Cameroon, we fight against each other. We love each other. We are always together.
Yeah. It because it's very similar personalities. It's very strong personalities. Like Cameroonians are very proud, very, very proud of being Cameroonian. Just like Ivorians are very, very proud and very, not loud in a bad sense, but very outspoken. And so it's strong personalities that is like, okay, we are proud and we won this. Oh, we are proud and we won this. So it's like two giants that are they're brothers. They love each other, but they're like, just like brothers in the family. They like pick at each other and all that. But it's all love. It's all love.
But you have one elephant and one lion. The jungle is like.
Right. That's so true.
Okay, so now it's been great talking to you as usual. I wish we had more and more conversation if time permits, we can do so again. But your last words after part one and part
Absolutely.
two,
Absolutely.
your last word.
My last words. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. This has been a joy to share my experience, my desires, our family's plans. God willing, it will happen. And my last word for anybody watching, I would say, you have to be willing to take risks. You have to be willing to take risks. And know, I mean, me as a believer, I believe that there's no bad choice. Wherever you go, God is with you. So we have to let go of fear. You have to go with the things that you know you're good at. Follow that instead of following what's popular. Cote d'Ivoire is not a popular destination. Cameroon is even less of a popular destination. People are like, oh, there's a war there. Why are you going there? Ghana is a popular destination. South Africa is a popular destination. Even Kenya is a popular destination. But I want my kids to be fluent in French. There are reasons. There are reasons why you want to do something, whether it's to move or pursue your business. They have to be deeper than money or other people. So stick to your vision and go for it. In spite of the fear is there. The fear is here today. But in spite of it, you just have to go for it. That will be my word.
Okay. Thank you very much. And God bless you. And see you in the next one. Hopefully.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Au revoir. À bientôt.
Bye. Au revoir, à bientôt.